Hey, Firefox here. Tumblr. You either love it or you hate it. Personally, I'm both. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it. Mum always did say I was a little bit awkward. But I'm not specifically talking about Tumblr today though. If I did, I would be here forever, really. I have many quibbles and I have many things to love about it. Although it does kind of have a big involvement as the reason why I'm talking about this topic today. Because, well, I really wanted to talk about it and it needed to be said. I needed to get my own opinion on it out there. Today I want to talk about this beautiful specimen of a character. Agent 13, otherwise known as Sharon Carter. You may have seen her in Captain America the Winter Soldier, or you might have seen her in Civil War. Or maybe you saw her in both. You may have also read about her or seen her in the comic books, as she is a common fixture in Captain America comics, mostly the ones where Steve Rogers is the titular character. She also appeared in some where Bucky Barnes was also the titular character, but not so much, as sort of Black Widow was more of his female sidekick in that, although that's a really horrible way to put it. With the release of Civil War, Sharon has easily been a very polarising character within the community. A lot of people hate her for breaking up a complete and utter sausage fest, to use that very crude term, and being, to use an even cruder term, a cockblock for people's non-existent ships. I don't care, I love her. I will try to avoid going on a rant about these non-existent ships, but because that is a completely different matter and I don't really want to get a lot of, well, to be honest, I don't really care if I get hateful comments about it, but the point of the matter is I don't want to talk about it because I will completely go off my nut, to put it simply. But there is another side on Tumblr who absolutely love Sharon Carter and will defend her no matter what against the haters. And if you couldn't tell, especially by my new profile picture, and also what I've said about her before, I'm one of those people because honestly she is just simply an amazing character. I always liked Sharon Carter. I was introduced to her within this very specific graphic novel, the Captain America the Winter Soldier Dossier edition, which I bought in HMV when HMV were having a closing down sale, because the one that was closest to me was closing down due to like structural problems or something, so they were having this massive sale, and I'd literally just watched the Winter Soldier in the cinema and I absolutely loved the film, so when I saw this on sale I was like, I'm having that. But when I saw her and like they were talking about her and they said something in there about our past or something like that, I was just like, Steve has a girlfriend! I didn't know about this! By this point I wasn't exactly a massive comic fan, so I didn't really know much at that point in time, so when I did find out that Steve had a girlfriend, I was like, ooh! But at the same time I was just like, oh, okay, fair enough. So long as he's happy, that's all that really matters. And I continued to read it, and I went through, I was reading the story and I was seeing it all unfold, and I really just loved her character. She supported him every single step of the way when it came to Bucky. She understood the importance of Bucky to him as his best friend, who at the time thought he was dead, and with each of these revelations coming out that he wasn't dead and he was this enigmatic sort of figure, the Winter Soldier, she was kind of the one that kept him grounded in reality and tried to prevent him from going off the rails. And I mean, she was even assigned to him as sort of like a S.H.I.E.L.D. liaison agent because of their past and because they were confident that she would be the one to be able to keep him grounded in reality, and so he doesn't go completely off his nut and go mental. She could defend herself on her own and she didn't rely on Steve at all, really. To an extent, actually, Steve somewhat relied on her for emotional security, especially during this quite tough time with dealing with, oh yeah, by the way, your best friend who you thought was dead for like 70 years is actually alive, and he's actually an assassin, and he's actually kind of a bad guy, but not really a bad guy because he's been brainwashed, but you don't know about that yet, so you just think he's a bad guy. But off the point, in the follow-up graphic novel, Red Menace, which literally follows straight on after that, the Winter Soldier Man Out of Time runs. In this one, they continue their search for Bucky after he disappeared at the end of the Winter Soldier sort of story arc. So in this, yes, they're looking for him, and she is with him every single step of the way. Throughout the whole sort of story, she's with him every single step. She's helping him, she's supporting him, she's defending herself against whatever dangers or whatever enemies they face. In the MCU, her role is a lot smaller, but that's only because their relationship is still budding. Also because the whole universe is made up of films which have limited screen times, and so they don't really have much sort of time, and they're quite constrained on what they can do and how much they can sort of develop things. They can only really imply stuff. There's still a lot to tell in their relationship though, just by what you see within Civil War, but also within the Winter Soldier. Starting with the Winter Soldier actually, it is implied that they have had a few limited interactions before. Probably just small talk, but there's still an implied attraction between the two, just with the way they look and smile at each other, and there's kind of a hint of playful flirting, even though it's a little bit awkward, but that's kind of just their characters, so it kind of makes sense. Sharon is shown to have a trust and a loyalty towards him, despite the limited interactions throughout the whole film. For example, when she is told by Alexander Pierce that he is a fugitive and he is a wanted man, she stands up against impossible odds, and she's not entirely sure if even anyone will come to her aid, but she just does it anyway, and she just stands up against the superiors, and she kind of demands to know why they're looking for him and the reasons behind this and why he's a fugitive, because she trusts him and she doesn't believe that he is this bad person that Pierce is trying to tell them that he is. And later on in the film, she also comes to the defence of someone who is less capable of defending themselves. And again, she doesn't know if anyone's going to come to her help, but she just does it. She follows and trusts Steve even when told otherwise, just by proved by these just two kind of small scenes where she just stands up to her superiors, and she also defends someone else and says, no, we're not doing this because he told us to. And we trust him more than we trust you, because quite frankly, you're a bit of a prick, really. Throughout her appearances, she's shown to have a strong moral compass, actually, and it does come through into Civil War, where not only does she risk her job to pass information on to Steve after the whole, oh yeah, Bucky's actually the one who blew up the UN negotiation things, she risked her job to pass information to Steve and to Sam, but also when they're all arrested, she risks her job again to turn on the link so they can see the interrogation and see what happens. But again, she risks her job even more later on, just slightly after that, when she breaks their gear out of the sort of lockup and she delivers it to them. And just doing that, she could lose her job. She could be charged with treason or anything like that, but she does it anyway because she trusts Steve, she trusts his judgment, she trusts that he is doing the right thing. Even though she risked her job, Sharon stayed true to her morals and also to her trust and loyalty to Steve despite their limited interactions. Well, seen limited interactions. It's kind of a similar trust and bond and loyalty that Sharon has for Steve in the comic books. She's always there for him and she can't do enough to help him. In the MCU, their relationship has a long way to go, obviously, because she's only been in 2 films so far. It's already somewhat implied that they have at least seen each other between the Winter Soldier and Civil War, just through the fact that Sam had recognised her and he knew who she was, despite the fact that they never actually met at all before in the Winter Soldier. Sharon Carter is one of my favourite characters, and well, I say that kind of about everyone, but in this sense I actually kind of really mean it. I have a thing where I say, oh, you're my favourite, about a character, but I say that to everyone. But in this sense, I actually fully mean it. She is actually one of my favourite characters. To me, she feels human. She is her own character and she's independent of Steve. She's been through a lot in her life, and currently in the comics she's actually starting to face her own mortality, even though Steve is young again, and currently Hydra, which she doesn't know about. She's not just a love interest, she can kick ass in her own right. She's been a director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and is currently actually the secret director of S.H.I.E.L.D. because Maria Hill is kind of only the figurehead until she goes to trial for her actions in Pleasant Hill. She has feelings and emotions, as shown when she was distressed at facing the prospects of being a single mother after Steve supposedly died and she found out she was pregnant. She was emotionally broken and had frequent flashbacks to Steve's death, as well as battling with mind control, which had been slowly sort of implanted in her mind by Dr. Faustus, who was impersonating a S.H.I.E.L.D. psychiatrist at the time. She did a pretty good job at battling the mind control for quite a while, actually, before she finally gave into it. Although she didn't really give into it willingly, she was trying to search for the source of it, she was trying to look for Dr. Faustus, and in the end she got captured, but she broke herself out at frequent points. She did need help to finally get out, but most of the time she was doing a pretty good job at getting out herself and defending herself and finding out more information to help people. And she's the reason that they actually bring Steve back, really. She risked her own life at one point and sacrificed the life of her unborn child to prevent it from being a tool and a weapon of the Red Skull. It was a horrible, horrible and heartbreaking and extremely hard decision to make, but she did it for the... I don't really want to say for the greater good, but she was thinking more of the child rather than herself. And she risked her own life in order to stop this child from being a tool and a weapon. To me, she feels human, and I've mentioned that before, but she really does just feel human. She's easily on par with one of the best female characters, like Marvel has. And I mean, they don't have as much as a lot of people would like, but she's one of the best examples of a decent and a really good female character. She's not perfect, but no one is. She's a favourite of mine, and it will not change anytime soon. At all. Sharon Carter Defence Squad.